What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Social Club, where everybody has a voice. As you can see, I'm not a familiar face on the channel, so let's get introductions out the way first. Now, I am Serge, and I'm your newest host and member of the Social Club family. I'm damn happy to be here, and I'm super excited to see the community growing at the rate it is, man. Keep that energy going. Now, I had the urge to make this video as we dive into one of the best times of the year as we kick off the second round of the NFL playoffs this Saturday. And I just needed to remind everybody about America's team taking the field. No, 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 not those Dallas Cowboys. They're old news. I'm referring to none less than my Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I can hear all the moaning and groaning from here. But before you jump out of your seats and close your phones or your laptop, whatever that might be, stick around for a moment. You might learn something about what's going to happen this postseason after all. But before we dive too deep in today's topic, let's take care of a few of the housekeeping items first. Go ahead and jam that subscribe button down below. Make sure you follow the Instagram page when you're done. And go tap into that Discord channel where you can stay in the mix about all the upcoming events, episodes, and so much more coming to you from Social Club. Chief Kingdom, I got to hear from you guys too, so let me get a Chief Peat down in the comments below. Now, first things first, let's jump right into the matchup. Here we are in round two of the playoffs, where my Chiefs take on C.J. Stroud and his Texans. Now, I think it's safe to say that after our Week 16 matchup, that this is going to be a great full-speed practice for our boys in red and gold. After a few weeks of rest, I just know they're more than hungry to get their playoff run started, and I truthfully see this going no differently than how it did just before the holiday. I mean, first of all, the disadvantage of playing in Arrowhead by itself is vast enough. Not a single team of the 8 we played at home this year were able to walk into our trap and take over our trap. Not once this season. Now, with respect, I'll say it's not an impossible feat to ask for. Heck, Houston's done it before themselves and beat us in Arrowhead. It just happened to be during Week 6 of our 2019 run, in which, if I recall correctly, was the first year Patrick Mahomes brought home his championship ring. I digress. Secondly, I mean, if that's not already enough, let's just call it for what it is. There's no way around it. The Chiefs have both the experience and the composure to pin the Texans logo on the wall of L's that will enshrine this historic three-peat run. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Texans are decent. CJ is one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, and the Texans are in the playoffs for a reason. Now, that reason might be because they're one of the best teams in one of the worst divisions of football, but some of you would make the same argument for the Chiefs. Now, in years past, I might agree, but let me add that at least 2 of our division rivals made it to the first round this season, and even though they got exited in nasty manner, they did exceed expectations. But nonetheless, what it comes down to is that it's plain and that it's simple. The Texans don't have the firepower. The Texans don't have the engineering to take down the Chiefs. I can go on and on all day about how simple this W should be to secure, but I'm trying to keep it short. So wrap them up, get them out of here. But I do want to know, what's the spread you're taking on Saturday's game? I need another leg on my lay. All right. Enough about next week. I think we all know how that's going to go. But I've got a bigger question for everybody that's watching, and this goes for Chiefs fans and non-Chiefs fans alike. It's something that's been on my mind for some time now, and I'm trying to understand what it is I'm missing here. How is Coach Reid not being considered for Coach of the Year? I mean, let's just break this down. Out of 15 wins this season, the Chiefs have managed to win within one score 11 times. Now, don't get me wrong, there's been some luck that's sprinkled in there. I'm not denying it. And it happens to everybody, so hold your comments on that. But we can't continue to ignore this vast resilience to losing and this immense urge to winning. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're more than fortunate to have the playmakers that go out there every week and actually make it happen. But when it comes down to it, we have to recognize that Big Red has just learned how to win football. I mean, look at the big picture. Through countless injuries, week after week, here we are, seeded number 1, coming off our bye week in the AFC again. And the problem with that is, a lot of you still want to chalk most of those wins up to penalty help. Guys, these are things we can do research on. If you take out our second string showdown against Denver recently, you could see that leading into the last week, our starters had 91 penalties for 814 yards against us, with 102 penalties for 808 yards of gain. So even with 11 more beneficial penalties in our favor, our starters finished their season with -6 yardage in penalty gains. Now, I understand some of those penalties might have came at the best time in the game they could have for us, but Why can it never come down to the fact that we just might be a bit more disciplined than our opponent in the big moment? I mean, let's take a few examples. Nobody told Dijon Anthony to run smack in the back of Rasheed on 4th and long. That really gave us the break we needed. Hell, nobody told Powers Johnson to botch the snap in the Raiders' last attempt to pull off the upset. Tough luck. When it comes down to it, we run a tight ship. But with that said, I exclude Juwan Taylor from every single one of those comments. I really think he has to practice on his own. I don't understand how you're second in individual penalties. It's quite absurd. All in all, forget all that mess. Big Red, Spags, and even Mr. Nagy have contributed heavily to the success we've seen this year. And in seeing just how effective these efforts have been, especially in what's arguably one of our most difficult seasons to endure, I don't feel like Big Red's getting the recognition he deserves. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Now, for those of you who might be disagreeing with my last take, I may be able to change your mind with the conclusion of the last topic I want to bring up today. That is the elephant in the room, what we're all waiting to find out and see. Can they do it? Can the Kansas City Chiefs, for the first time in NFL Super Bowl history, pull off a three-peat? Well, I think there are a few things we need to consider. Starting with, the Chiefs are 15-3 in the playoffs since the Patrick Mahomes era began, so it's safe to say this is familiar territory. And although this isn't the same explosive Chiefs team we've seen in the past, we've already shown we know how to get it done when it matters the most, even if that means we've got to do it with less. Take last year's playoff run, for example. After enduring what was statistically measured to be the most difficult playoff run in NFL history, having the lowest estimated odds possible to complete a playoff run on the road and be successful, to then, furthermore, take that to the biggest stage in football and win in an underdog upset in overtime against what was known to be the most stacked and maybe the most talented roster in football at that time. I mean, guys, I shouldn't have to say much more. Again, I digress. Not to reiterate, this is the same Chiefs team that we've been seeing finding ways to win all season long, and they've yet to be doing it at full capacity. In the beginning, it was injury after injury, week after week. I mean, and these were on our star players. You had Hollywood out, Checo's out, Rasheed's out, Jalen Watson's out. Hell, we couldn't catch a break. But now, after some significant time and rest, we've got Checo back in practice. He's getting reps after his stinger with the Steelers. You got Chris Jones talking about his return after his calf injury with the Texans. There's even reports about Jalen Watson touching the field on Saturday. Man, these are things I can't wait to see. But what I don't understand is somebody from the outside looking in, how can you see this Chiefs team firing on all pistons and not think of them to be the biggest threat in football? Now, I know that most of you probably don't care to hear any of this, but I do get a kick out of you just insisting on the inevitable not being upon us. So I've got a few challenges for you down in the comments below. 1, I'd like to learn what your spread is going to be for Saturday. Go ahead and let me know. 2, do you think that Coach Reid's getting cheated out of his Coach of the Year badge? And 3, most of all, do you believe the Chiefs can pull it off? If not, who's going to be the one to dethrone Chiefs from the kingdom? With all that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. I'd like to thank you for tapping into another episode of the Social Club. This has been Serge. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and come back for the next episode. In the meantime, I'm out.